Welcome to ManXP. For more Manhwa content, please like and subscribe. Enjoy the video. 4 days have passed, and Howard has just woken up. Howard is recovering from the toxic attack. His whole left side is now skewered. His left hand is numb, and he can only use his right. 2003 is shocked and remarks that Howard has a strong will. Howard asks 2003 what that red gem was. He explains that it is an energy core that is the most precious thing in the world. When sand touches, it will burst out energy, and if it bumps too hard, it'll explode. There is a similar energy core at the shelter which produces electricity. More concerning, the scar on his left side is a mark that the toxic lizard leaves on its victim. The lizard will now be looking for Howard. 2003 has kept the eggs incubated inside its body. He brings them out. Howard gets emotional thinking about his parents' death. He dreams of a day when he can relieve his family's stress. They blame them for their position. Howard and 2003 make their way back home. On their way back home, they encounter another ruler-level beast. He entered the area because he was attracted by the sound of the explosion. The beast has entered the territory of the giant lizard. If the lizard sees it, it will fight it for entering its territory. Howard gets an idea. Outside the shelter, Howard sees another dead large eagle. As he enters the place, an arrow flies in his direction. Genexia shot an arrow at him in error. She thought that he was a beast. She apologizes and explains that she has had a rough couple of days. She had to prepare assuming that Howard was not coming back. She killed the eagles outside and burned the bird's nest. She also started to practice archery. She has read a bit about the energy core and made pieces of the core into a weapon. Howard is impressed by her proactive attitude. Howard takes some to use as a weapon. Genexia asks him to stay around for a few days as she has been scared and lonely. Howard explains that he cannot stay as he has been marked by the giant lizard. If he does not leave, the lizard will come here and destroy the bunker. Howard asks Genexia to take care of the eggs. There is an incubator in the basement. She agrees. Howard prepares to leave the base. Genexia has used the energy core to make an exploding spear weapon. There are only 4 of them, so Howard will have to be selective about how he uses them. Genexia is experimenting and there is a power outage. 2003 is worried about the eggs in the incubator as they will break if they are not at the right temperature. Genexia fixes the power, but all but 1 egg has died. Howard decides to put the last remaining egg in 2003's incubator. Genexia is frustrated that Howard is trusting the last egg with 2003. Howard explains that this is more than an egg to 2003. It is its last hope. Genexia is annoyed by Howard's sentimentality. She sees 2003 as a robot, nothing more. During their argument, 2003 detects the large lizard in range. 2003 and Howard rush outside and tries to direct him to the mountains. It chases them from higher ground. Howard uses the pieces of the energy core as a weapon to buy time. He throws them at the giant lizard, and the resulting explosion slows it down. Howard is down to his last energy core bomb and approaching the corrosive ocean. Just then, the ruler-level gorilla arrives. It has been attracted by the large noises from the explosion and enters the giant lizard's territory. Howard and 2003 are trapped between the 2 ruler-level beasts. Howard throws the exploding spear and runs away to a small gap between the rocks. Both ruler-level beasts are hit by rocks. They then start to hit each other in the confusion. A battle begins. The gorilla takes the upper hand initially, beating up the giant lizard. However, the lizard attacks the gorilla with its toxic eye attack. The gorilla is heavily injured by the attack and runs away. The giant lizard is victorious. With the gorilla gone, Howard is left with no option and makes his move. He throws 2 exploding spears at each other, and they land in the giant lizard's mouth. The spears then explode in the mouth of the lizard, killing it. 2003 congratulates Howard on his victory. He also gives the good news that the eggs will soon hatch. The weather is changing. It is typhoon weather. While the 2 are standing there, the body of the lizard explodes and the toxic liquid gets all over Howard. This time, it gets Howard in his eye. He applies the eyes of Medusa once again. Eagles begin to swarm him. He sees the last energy core on the floor and kicks it at a wall. This explosion creates a hole. Howard tries to make it to the newly created cave but falls over. He is then attacked by a large eagle. It swoops down to pick Howard with its talons. But before it can pick Howard, 2003 comes to drag Howard away. It brings Howard to a cave and blocks up the hole with its body to stop the eagles. Howard tells 2003 to leave, but the robot refuses to leave its family. Its beak rips a hole through 2003. After 6 days, 2003 and Howard start to make their way home. They are both terribly injured, barely hanging on to life. The sandstorm scared away the birds and saved their lives. 2003's radar is still working, so it is using it to take Howard home before it dies. Howard is unable to move and cannot feel his body because he took too many injections. 2003's body starts to catch fire. 2003 asks Howard to tell it how he will remodel the shelter before he dies. Howard tells 2003 of all the trees and crops he will plant, and 2003 is happy with Howard's plans. On their path is a sign left by Genexia. It warns of landmines and advises us to take a different path. 2003 is unable to see the sign because he is severely damaged. Howard shouts to 2003 to not go there, but 2003 does not understand in time. The landmine destroys 2003. The only thing remaining is his name ring. Howard reaches out to grab it, but another hand grabs it. The person pulls the name ring out of his hands. It is Genexia. Howard is furious and shouts out at her. Genexia takes the name ring and runs away. 2 days later, Howard wakes up again in the bed at the shelter. He remembers what happens and runs to find Genexia. He finds her with a drill in her hand. She repaired 2003 and gave the robot a new body. 2003 reboots with its memory. Genexia explains that the name ring is the controller of the robot. If this is fine, the robot is still repairable. 2003 is amazed by all its new features. It even has new fighting moves. Howard is amazed by Genexia's work. She reminds him that she told him the robot can be refined. There are many robot bodies that 2003 can use, and he could have done it if he listened. However, he would rather vent his anger at her. Howard thought that it would destroy 2003. Genexia explains that there is no such thing as guaranteed success in science. She wasn't trying to destroy 2003. She vents her frustration that Howard refuses to listen to her and plan with her. Whenever she wants to draft a plan, he leaves her alone to work by herself. Then he finds a way to blame her for everything. She breaks down in tears. She explains that she does not want to be evil, she just wants to survive. Howard is speechless and can only apologize. Howard is shocked and resolves to change his attitude toward Genexia. Genexia walks away frustrated and resolves to play Howard at his own game. Howard and 2003 catch up. Howard explains that going forward, he won't be able to throw javelins. His hands can't stop shaking because of the nerve damage from corrosive acid. 2003 reassures Howard that he won't have to do anything. He shows Howard its new fighting moves. It can perform all the fighting moves from the last 400 years. Howard is shocked and decides to learn 2003's fighting skills by sparring the robot. Later, Howard goes to get the energy core in the power room. In the power room, the developer suddenly appears on the screen. She tells Howard she needs him to destroy the game. She warns of what could happen if the game is available to everyone. She tells him of the ultimate reward, which is to live forever. She asks Howard to transfer the energy core to an assigned place to help her break the game. Howard agrees. The developer explains that she was the one who caused the power outage because Genexia overused the energy core. Howard returns to training with 2003. He remembers the story he heard from Josh Tsai's lover. Josh Tsai killed 20 armed drug dealers by himself to save her. 2003 tells him that a conservative estimate is 3,000 barefisted. This means Josh Tsai can easily defeat a ruler-level beast with no weapons. Howard asks whether he can reach this level if he conquers the desert. 2003 says it is possible, and he will be by his side till the end. Howard continues to fight the animals in the desert and work on his moves. 2003 continues to coach Howard on how to use his body. 2003 explains that Howard still has limitations on his power level because of his physical limits. Howard decides to continue exercising to build his strength while 2003 works on farming. Genexia sees Howard struggling to do push-ups because of the nerve damage. She thinks that he won't be as useful in this condition. She creates an exoskeleton, which she gives to Howard to help. The exoskeleton requires a red gem. Genexia knows she can't stop Howard from going out to fight, and she also lacks some materials. She gives Howard a map of locations with resources that she needs and the battle level of the beasts in that area. Howard cuts his hair and ties an eye patch to improve his vision. He begins his training with 2003 using the new exoskeleton. Meanwhile, Genexia is decoding an archive log. The tape explains the history of this world. Humanity understood that a great catastrophe was coming and created a spaceship to save humanity. However, the spaceship could not fit everyone, and some people were left people. The catastrophe occurred, and the remaining survivors dreamed that the space people will come back. But this was questioned when generations found evidence that their ancestors were criminals. The person explores that their last hope was the Under the Moon shelter, and they have left 2003 to guard the house. Howard in 2003 continue to fight beasts and collect equipment for Genexia. They encounter a security robot designed to kill all intruders. Howard remembers what Genexia said about the name ring. It is the life beat of a robot. Howard rips out the controller ring and it easily defeats the robot. The robot was protecting a room. Behind the door, there is a room dedicated to the history of the ancestors. There is a book with all the world flags and famous paintings, such as the Mona Lisa. 2003 realizes that since Howard recognizes these items, he must be from that era, 400 years ago. Howard realizes that the catastrophe is connected to the previous Dreamland iteration. That is why there were no people in the last Dreamland, because they flew away to space. All the Dreamlands are connected. The essence of the game is how far humanity can increase in the future. Howard is committed to reversing the history of this world. Howard comes home and asks 2003 to tell Genexia to explain how the corrosive ocean formed. Howard explains that this is the last piece of land in the world. Howard wants to unite the people in all the refugee camps to repair the disaster. Genexia agrees to help with this and shows Howard her planning. But Genexia does not truly care about uniting the stations. She just wants to build the satellite station. Howard thanks Genexia for her help. Howard gets to work gathering the satellite parts and fighting the beasts. 2003 helps Genexia to build the satellite. After 2 weeks, the satellite is complete. Genexia hopes to find an evacuation point. She hopes to communicate with the people who have left Earth and leave the planet. After setting up the satellite, Genexia receives a message from the Under the Moon sanctuary. It informs her that sanctuary is in fact under the moon, and to get there she needs energy cores to reach the moon. A large energy core like the one in the generator room is needed. Only Genexia will be able to make it alive. Genexia commits to going to the moon sanctuary. The messenger says that the launch pad has been cleared for her, and they will see her there. Genexia lies to Howard that she was unable to find the evacuation point. Howard and Genexia talk about the past. Howard discusses his regret that he did not consider the needs of Josh Sai. He comforts Genexia and explains that he will take care of her. Genexia continues to plan for her escape to the moon, but she needs a robot to protect her and a vehicle to transport the energy core. She gets Howard to gather the items to build a robot by lying to him that it is for farming equipment she is building. Genexia's preparations are going well, but Howard has become overly enthusiastic and regularly interrupts her. She hides her work whenever he comes in. She then gets the idea that this is because Howard likes her. She teases him and tells that he already had a chance. However, Howard just brought her a tampon which he found in the ancestor's room, because it may be useful to her. Genexia is embarrassed and takes the tampons and runs away to the toilet. As she leaves, Howard and 2003 are behind her, ready to grab and bag her. They grab her and run away. Genexia is afraid that Howard may do something to her and promises to obey him in the future. Howard takes off the bag on her head. He has set up a picnic. He shows her the progress of the area. The sand has turned to mud. He also unveils the first plant to grow in the area. Genexia is dismayed that Howard kidnapped her just to show her this. She asks him if there is enough water to irrigate the land. Howard is worried and shocked. Genexia agrees to help him find another water source. He tells her that he needs her to relax because he has seen how hard she is working. She then unveils a cake that 2003 and him prepare to thank her for her work. An animal interrupts and jumps on the cake, causing a mess. Howard and 2003 chase after the animal, worried that it will ruin their work. Genexia is furious as she now has cake on her face. Howard and 2003 chase the animal to a tree. The tree is growing way past expectations and is the tallest in the area. The animal shows them a strong fertilizer, and they follow the animal for days to find more fertilizer. Meanwhile, at the shelter, Genexia has completed the robot. She heads to another shelter with the robot to pick up a transport vehicle that can transport the large energy core. When she arrives, the place is abandoned, and there are lots of dead animals. Inside, she finds a transport vehicle. On top of the vehicle, there is a large toxic cheetah. A herd of cheetahs then appears and advances to Genexia and her combat robot. Her combat robot protects her from the robot on top of the transport vehicle, but then tells Genexia to evacuate. She turns on full firepower mode and runs away. The combat robot stops the cheetahs from advancing. But then cheetahs emerge from the entrance, ready to attack Genexia. The robot spins one of its arms and shoots ammo to kill the cheetahs. The robot runs out of ammo, and the cheetahs attack and destroy the robot. Genexia is alone and prepares herself for inevitable death here. However, Howard shoots open the door and kills the cheetahs. Howard tells Genexia that he will protect her. Howard in 2003 clear the shelter. Genexia obtains the transport vehicle with Howard's help. Howard is still unaware of her plan. She wonders how she can talk to him to get the energy source. She will still need his help to reach the launch station. Genexia has doubts about the morality of what she is doing, but believes she has no other choice. Howard checks in on her while she is fixing the car. He updates her with the good news that he has found high-efficiency fertilizer. Genexia is shocked because the environmental resources under the moon are richer. She asks Howard whether he wants to move the moon. He could take all the plants and build a better farm there. Howard's stomach interrupts the conversation. Howard walks away, but he is suspicious of why Genexia is in such a hurry. He wonders what she is planning behind his back. Eventually, Howard and Genexia arrive at the launch station for Under the Moon Sanctuary. Genexia needs to find the control room to contact the Under the Moon base. Genexia leaves to go to the control room. Howard watches her with suspicious eyes. Genexia goes to the control room and tries to open the door. The door recognizes her, but it gives a warning that it cannot recognize the energy source. To access the room, another energy core will be needed. Genexia wonders where she can get an energy core in such a short time. Genexia wonders whether she will have to take the energy core from 2003. It would be cruel to leave Howard alone, but to take 2003 as well would be evil. Genexia has another psychotic episode. She wonders if it is such a sin to survive. She resolves to do whatever it takes to survive. 2003 invites Genexia for dinner. She notices the back of 2003 where his energy core is stored. At dinner, Howard asks if can he enter the control room. Genexia says yes, but it will take time. Genexia asks Howard at dinner whether he has experienced a difficult time in his life or he had to use whatever means necessary to break through. Howard explains that he has not, but he has met a man like that. He explains that Josh Sai, his business partner, was like that and ended up betraying him. Genexia asks him whether he hates him. Howard explains that he understands he was in a tough position. He does not whether he forgives him, but he also does not know what he will do in his position. Genexia is upset that she is about to do the same to Howard. In the night, Genexia enters Howard's room and approaches 2003. Howard's body is facing the wall. She gestures to 2003 to be quiet and takes the energy core out of the back of 2003. 2003 is shut down. She runs away regretfully. Howard is facing the wall, but he is wide awake. He heard everything. With her refurbished robot to guard her, Genexia opens the control room using 2003's energy core. Genexia activates the launch pad system. However, the system rejects her hand's print because she does not have enough permissions. The system then closes the launch system. Genexia attacks the system in frustration. She betrayed Howard and still could not escape. Howard enters and explains that the Under the Moon shelter is a scam. While Genexia has been sleeping, Howard and 2003 have been investigating the place. No shelters outside this planet exist. The system that Genexia has been communicating with sends false information to entice people to bring energy cores and keep the base operating. Genexia shouts that Howard is talking nonsense. She just does not have enough permissions. Howard explains that no living human has enough permissions. 2003 enters the room. Genexia is shocked. 2003 explains that the energy core she took was just a spare one. 2003 then accesses the system and opens the fake launch pad. It reveals a room filled with lush flowers, plants, and trees. It is the last oasis available on Earth. The whole purpose of the Under the Moon scam was to protect this oasis. The operation was arranged by the survivors who disappeared earlier. It also left much unfinished scientific research. With this, they will be able to achieve their goals. Genexia is in denial. She cannot believe what has happened. She thinks that there must be something that Howard missed and calls him a liar. Howard shouts at her to wake up. Her sole goal of survival has blinded her, and she cheated. Genexia is upset that she cheated. She has been fooled again. Genexia has a flashback to her past. She is invited to go on a hike with her best friend. Genexia does not want to go but does so as a favor to her friend. The guy her best friend likes won't go unless she also goes. As a child, Genexia grew up in a rich family. But she was ostracized because her family was viewed as evil because of the family's bad luck. People said that her grandma killed her grandpa and her mom killed her dad. Her uncle also lost his life protecting her in a car accident. Her mom was impacted by the opinions of others and committed suicide, leaving just her and her grandma. When she was all alone and no one wanted to play with her, her one and only friend, Suoya, appeared. But on the day of the hike, Suoya pushes Genexia to go higher and higher. The boy she liked is not here, and Genexia is confused. Suoya then shows her true colors. She is upset that the boy she likes Genexia. She blames Genexia for this. She calls Genexia disgusting for her holy attitude. She reveals that she only approached Genexia as a child as a bet. She stayed close to her because she was jealous of her background, grades, and looks. She reveals that she has been spreading rumors about her on campus. She wants the boy all to herself and pushes Genexia off the mountain. Genexia was left injured and helpless on the floor until the evening. She was discovered by hunters. If she was not discovered by hunters, she would have become food for wild animals. She then spent several weeks in the hospital. Something broke in Genexia after the incident. The physical pain was excruciating, and the mental turmoil of being betrayed by the one she trusted the most led to her becoming a cold and selfish person. She realized that she can't trust anyone. In the present day, Genexia quickly recovers after the flashback. She rebuffs Howard and is sure he is lying because there is only space for one survivor. She believes that there is an ulterior motive for Howard's kindness. She takes the energy core for the control room to find an alternative launch pad. When she takes the energy core, an alarm is set off and the guard system is activated. Genexia is confused again. Howard is annoyed by her stubbornness. The shelter shoots at her in a robot. Howard warns her to be careful. The robot explodes after receiving a shot from the guard system. Howard runs and catches Genexia to save her from the explosion. Howard grabs Genexia's hand and tells her to run away. Genexia asks what happened, but there is no time to explain. They must run for their lives. 2003 catches up and provides support by destroying some of the system's guns. But a robot now blocks their exit. Howard throws the robot in the air and 2003 then shoots the robot. The robot is destroyed, but then it activates the second stage of combat and releases hundreds of small attack drones. One of the drones sticks to 2003. 2003 explodes. The drones are filled with explosives and will explode on contact. 2003 is badly injured. Howard uses a fire blast from his cybernetic arms to hold off the drones. Howard tells Genexia to escape the base with 2003 and close the base gate. He will follow them. Genexia manages to close the base gate and tells Howard to hurry before it shuts. Howard runs out of energy in his exoskeleton arms and cannot fire and blast the drones anymore. He runs to the gate, but the drones are catching him. Genexia shouts the door is closing. Howard has no choice but to use an explosive device to give him a boost. The explosion pushes Howard through the gates, but he is terribly injured. Howard is bleeding out. His liver is ruptured. He has only been in this world for 2 months, 4 months short of the 180 days target. Genexia rips a part of her dress to stop the bleeding. Howard knows he is dying. He wants to help this world progress, so with his dying breath, he informs Genexia of a machine that can turn organisms into energy cores. It is unfinished. Genexia tells him to stop talking. He asks her to complete the machine and continue to survive. Maybe she can even find the moon. Genexia is crying, and Howard says it is not like her. He asks her to continue to survive and fades away. Genexia screams his name. Is this the end for Howard? Will Genexia be able to survive if Howard dies? What about what the developer said? Subscribe and comment if you want more parts. Thank you for watching ManXP. Please like and subscribe.